Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Women to Watch. I'm Sue Rocco, and it's so good to be here after a couple of weeks away. We have a great show for you this week. Joining me in just a moment will be Lisa Baird. Lisa Baird is the founder of LPB Advisors, and she's also a board member, sits on a board director, and sits on several boards. You'll also hear from Sherry Morrison, our Lifestyle Watch contributor. And Sherry's going to be talking to Kareem Rosser. Kareem is an author. He's a financial analyst, and he's the treasurer for Work to Ride, which is an equestrian program here in Philadelphia. And be sure to stay with us at the very end of the show. You'll see a segment from Carol Eggert, our Military Watch contributor with Comcast NBC Universal. So now I'd like to welcome to the show Lisa Baird.
Well, hi, good morning, everyone, and nice to be with you, Sue.
Hi, Lisa. It's great to have you. Tell us where you're joining us from.
Well, I'm joining you from my home in Connecticut, where I am right now. Tomorrow I'll be traveling again, but right now it's a pretty nice time to be here.
Yeah, good. We probably share weather being on the East Coast. It's a little gloomy today, but that's okay. We're gearing up for the holidays.
That's right.
So I wanted to start off the interview and have you talk a little bit about your life growing up in Aruba, which is, you're my first guest in 10 years who was born in Aruba. And tell me a little bit about the community there. What was that like?
It was at the time, it was the biggest expat community in the world on this tiny little island of Aruba. And that was because the company at the time, Esso, in the oil business back then, today it's energy, had built a massively modern refinery. And Venezuela, of course, was one of the top, I think, 5 nations of exporting fuel. So it was a refinery, and my dad, and my mom moved there in the 1950s, and we began a life of an expat abroad.
And I know that you eventually moved to New York, Long Island. How old were you when you did that?
I moved at that time. I was just beginning middle school. So I moved to a community called Manhasset. My father's family was from Long Island, and I moved there and went to middle school and high school and then graduated. And so, I've lived all over.
Yeah, that must have been hard, though. I'm thinking, middle school for girls, I would say especially, is a very tough time.
Well, I think the difference is you're coming, first of all, anytime you move in middle school, it's hard. And then you're moving from a very, kind of a bubble of an international community into the US. Right. So it was my very first time living in the United States, and actually adjusting to the US culture that was pretty big for me. It was very difficult. So I'm trying to be a 7th grader and adjust to U.S. culture, which I didn't really know about. And, it was definitely a challenging time, but very, very glad I got to do my high school in the U.S.
Yeah. Would you say that transition helped with your ability to acclimate to new situations, new places, new people?
Yeah. I talked to my kids today did not move anywhere. I've lived maybe 20 different places in my life. Wow. And I know I've really traveled, and that isn't usual today. That it isn't usual. And my kids have mostly grown up here in my hometown, and now they live quite close to me, which as a mom, I'm very grateful for. But I kind of push them to go out of their comfort zone and go and live in another city. And I do think it breeds independence. It breeds confidence. And for me personally, particularly in my life and global multinational and then corporations and then in global sports, early on, I was completely sensitive to international culture and what it's like, how the perceptions of Americans are, which are not always positive.
Yes, that's right. I know that one of the things mom and dad instilled in you was a love of reading and books. And I think that's always a great foundation. for any young person. How has that impacted your career, having that love of reading and books?
Well, first of all, there's three things. I mean, I look, it is social media and the 24/7 nature of news coverage and everything. I mean, there's nothing that is a great thing. We have access to news and to development and to information at our fingertips now, which
Mhm.
wasn't true with books. But the ability to sit down with an author, whether it's nonfiction or fiction, to sit down with an author and really learn the story they're trying to tell, the world they're trying to portray through their eyes and through their ears and through their pen. It's really something that I hope that people continue to value like I do. I think book sales are up. I'm not sure. But one of the traditions in my family is, and it's always been since my kids were born, I always gave them a book for Christmas. And it's my favorite thing to shop for. So I went out Saturday and I bought them 3 books, and who knows if they'll like them, but I continue to push that written paper narrative over,
Yeah.
the
I think it
information.
will always be with us. It's
I
just
do.
too unique and, special. And, it's such an outlet for people, I think, different from the World Wide Web. Um, do you ever have a thought about writing a book yourself?
I have
You've
had
had a
that
very
thought.
interesting career.
I have had that thought. And I would say for me, it would be I would have to figure out the right format for it or the right way to do it, because I wouldn't want it to be about me. I would want it to be, I had the privilege, and I really mean the privilege, of being in places at points in time where I got a first row glimpse of kind of what was happening in the world. Not every major event, but sometimes major events.
Mhm.
And I think it would be somehow about having that ability to have seen and participated in so many kind of monumental events and having that front row seat. Then a lot of the times I was just an onlooker, not a participant, but sometimes I was a participant.
Yeah. Well, just so our viewers know, you've had a vast career and you worked, first of all, you went to Penn State. Was that a good fit
Yeah,
for you?
I did. I went to Penn State. I was in State College. I went undergrad and graduate school. I got my MBA from the Smeal School of Business, and
Great,
I've
great
had
school.
it started a love affair with that university,
Mhm.
and I've been involved in it not only as kind of I go there, talk to students on campus. I've recruited there. I've been a donor. Very happy to be a donor. And last about a year ago, I was really honored that the president of the university honored me with the Penn State Alumni of the Year, which was
Oh,
it was
congratulations.
yeah. I felt like, well, wait a minute, I'm not sure I want my contributions to be over, but nonetheless, it was very nice.
And how about the football program? Do you go back for the games?
I do, and I haven't been back in a while, but I'm following them very closely this year, and they are headed for the Rose Bowl, which I and many Pennsylvania citizens are very happy about, I think.
Yes, definitely. Um, so you worked at Procter and Gamble, IBM, the NFL, the Olympics, and most recently the Women's Soccer League, the
The
National
National
Women's
Women's
Soccer
Soccer
League.
League, yes.
Yes. So I guess first, I when I looked at your career, as a whole, I wondered what drives you to keep moving. What's exciting about starting over with an organization or a company all over again and continuing to do that?
Well, sometimes it's not exciting. Sometimes it's like
It's very
really
hard.
challenging.
Yes.
I have to admit, I have several friends. In fact, one of my friends was a gentleman who he went to Penn State, got his MBA the same year I did. He went to Procter and Gamble. I went to Procter and Gamble. He stayed at Procter and Gamble for his whole life, for his whole
Yeah.
career, and then
I
became
know someone who did as well. It's very different from what you've done.
it's very different. And there's
Yeah.
sometimes I've looked over there with envy because, you get to develop this deep well of knowledge and comfort and confidence. And for a lot of reasons, some professional and some personal, I kept throwing myself into situations where I literally had to learn entire industries very quickly, and it was challenging. And there were different reasons at different times. It's funny. One of the most interesting times was when I went to General Motors from marketing. I was in consumer packaged goods and healthcare. And that was my first foray into a very complicated industry and a big multinational corporation. And one of the reasons that I was recruited and went there was because the chairman of Procter and Gamble, John Smale, he'd grown up at P&G and became chairman, and he stepped on and became chairman of General Motors and rescued it from near bankruptcy. And he was very, very much a part of recruiting me to go there. And it was a very personal reason that I ended up going there. It was a good career move. And I ended up staying there for 5 years and learning so much. But that one was one because an executive that I admired so much and had early on influenced my career, although I didn't know him personally at P&G. I had a conversation with him, and he was quite instrumental in getting me to take that leap.
Would you have considered him a mentor?
I think many people have considered John. He may be one of the quietest, humblest CEOs of all time. There's a new book out about him. And in the P&G world, it's getting quite a bit of buzz because we realize how profound his influence was. So he wasn't a personal mentor, but I would say I, like many others who grew up under his tutelage, would have called him a mentor. But that one conversation that he likely never remembered had a very, very influential impact on my life.
Yeah, that happens quite often.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, brief conversations. I want to share a quote. You said, "What led to my success was a consistent, innate sense of obligation to help people. And this gave me the confidence that I needed." And what I wanted to ask you is, I think that's often the mindset of women, right? We care about community and everyone around, that things are being taken care of. Did you feel you ever did that to the detriment of your own well-being?
Absolutely. And I think that's a very honest answer. I don't think it's the philosophy, but maybe how far I took it sometimes. So the philosophy, and there's different styles of leadership, right? They're just one. I have always been attracted to the concept of the servant leader. John Smale, Paul Tagliabue was a servant leader commissioner. He was and is a very close personal mentor to me. A gentleman by the name of Larry Probst, the chairman of Electronic Arts. Again, I worked with him at the NFL, and he was instrumental in recruiting me to the Olympic movement. So there is that concept of the servant leader that I think is one that I absolutely find incredibly appealing. But I think sometimes you can take that dial and go too far. And there are times when I've done that. In fact, one time I actually took a step back and took a year off to spend some time with my son. He needed me for that year. And it was a decision that I don't regret, but I knew that I needed to be home for that year. And you're a little terrified at stepping off the corporate track. But I was so pleased because I got the chance to be with he and my two daughters, in a way that I wouldn't have had to be wholly present with them. So I think sometimes it's making sure the dial is there, and protecting your health is critically important for women.
Yes. Do you think we ever get to a place where we've learned that one particular lesson and we're doing it well? Or do we always kind of, fall back into the imbalance?
You know what I wonder, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would throw it out to the listeners, and Sue, even to you. I have a hypothesis that women are able to pivot at moments in their career a little bit easier than men. It's just a hypothesis. But I have pivoted from full-time, all-consuming, chief executive officer work into an advisory role, being on boards. I've just come off of a successful exit of one of the companies I was on the board on private equity. It's a very different role being an advisor. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, my hypothesis again is that women find it easier to kind of be a little bit more chameleon-like about that decision, where, I'm not so sure men do. I think men struggle. A lot of my friends who I've grown up with in business. One particularly close friend is he's been a CEO at a couple public companies, and he's always talking about being relevant and being relevant. I'm like, well, yeah, but there's so many different ways to be relevant. You don't have to be the leader, the titular. You can be relevant by being incredibly accessible and coaching people and advising people. And I do think women do that.
Yeah. And also behind this, not being the face, the front face. There's relevancy happening behind closed doors, everywhere. So it's an interesting hypothesis. We're going to go into our first break, and we will be back with Lisa Baird.
We are CHOP, and we can't wait to show you around. We're the nation's first children's hospital. Now, a care network with more than 50 locations that continues to expand. 3 state-of-the-art research buildings with 1.5 million square feet of space. We have grown from 12 beds 165 years ago to nearly 600 beds and one of the best children's hospitals in the world. We have a level 1 trauma center, 11 floors of patient units, more than 20 operating rooms, first of its kind delivery unit for babies with birth defects, a separate cardiac operative and catheterization suite, and places to learn, like our internationally recognized simulation center. We have trained generations of leaders in the field of pediatrics. We are world leaders in medicine, surgery, and science. One of the top recipients in NIH funding for pediatric research. In this building, pioneers in CAR T therapy, mitochondrial disease, brain tumors, hyperinsulinism, and other rare diseases. Here, groundbreaking work in fetal surgery, genetics and genomics, and neurology. In our newest building, leaders in social determinants of health, clinical informatics and epidemiology, autism, trauma and injury prevention. Our patients come from every state and 115 countries. Meeting these challenges requires the best and the brightest. We are passionate about pediatrics. We are motivated to make a difference in the world and in our community. We are a team. We are CHOP.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hi, and welcome back to the show. I'm Sue Rocco, and I'm joined this week by Lisa Baird. Lisa is the founder of LPB Advisors, and she's also a board director. And Lisa, I wanted to start this segment talking a little bit about your time with the National Women's Soccer League. And some may be familiar with, what happened there, and some may not. But in essence, it was uncovered that there was very, very poor treatment of some of the athletes, the women athletes. And I would say that's kind of happening across the board in sports today, where there's somewhat of a reckoning. When you look back at that time, which was brief, knowing what you know today, the first question I had is, would you do anything differently? And then go ahead.
Yeah, I think of course you always say there are things that you could have done differently. And that is what the benefit of, kind of having hindsight done. I would say I did a lot to advance safety and protection of players. More work needed to be done. when I stepped down and resigned, it was a time for me to not only self-reflect, but what I was really gratified about was what I saw publicly, how the Players Association and the NWSL, the league, which of course is the league office, and the owners really worked collaboratively together to advance. And coming off of that time was very traumatic for everybody, but I was really quite gratified by how, they really dug in. And I think that's a lesson learned, is there are times when there is a lot of public outcry, and having the vision and the ability for that PA and the league to come together and advance it was really kind of very inspiring, I think.
Yeah. And would you say that going through that experience and then having resigned and moved on to other things, is there anything you changed in your own life, having gone through that experience, that you do differently today as, an executive or as an advisor?
One of the things I would say, it's a very personal message from me, is to all men and women who are listening. There are times when you become so consumed by a job that you can forget your own health. And I was reminded of it as I was watching that, that incredibly moving, piece by the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I would say there are times when I did that, and now that I have the ability to kind of more balance my work time and my time, I am really prioritizing health. It's something you take for granted until you don't have it. Yeah. And that's, I think, I would say, my biggest thing that I would advise everybody to continually do.
And how do you do that? What's part of your routine?
Well, what I will tell everybody is, and this was something that I think I heard a lot about during the pandemic, that a lot of women put off, but people put off having necessary medical care and not going to get those preventative exams and whatever they were, dentist, doctor, mammograms. And I know people put that off, and I know it's been easy to kind of delay that. Don't. That would be my thing that I would say. Go get that. Take care of your health.
And how fortunate are we to have the ability to go do these preventative, checkups that allow us to know in advance that something could be coming.
Absolutely.
We didn't have that.
Absolutely. So, now, you can use a Zoom call, and you could do a little bit of exercise if you want right after it. So get at it.
Yeah. I want to talk to you a little bit about what you're doing today and what you've seen. The pandemic changed the entire world. And for companies, they had to pivot and really do things differently as well. What is the greatest change you've seen in organizations because of COVID? Something they're doing today that they did not prior?
I think, look, I think that when you look at what COVID did, and I don't know if you know my story. I joined the league as the commissioner. 2 days later, I shut the league down for the pandemic. And then it was just like a absolute full court press to bring the league back to competition, right? We were going to have to get out there because we were a very small, kind of newly started league and didn't have revenue coming in. So being able to go back to live competition gave us the resources to pay the players, to do the competition, and to get back. So, there was all of this, incredible pressure, I think, in our industry in particular, to get back to things that are normal. I think what I like to watch now is how companies are actually not gravitating to one way of returning to business and dealing with their employees. They're really doing a lot of diverse ways. And I see that on my board work. There's a far more accommodation. There's a desire to hire the best person for the job and recruit globally, no matter where that person is. I'm very happy to be on the board of a company that's headquartered in Malvern. And just recently, we were really working hard because one of our key software development teams was in the Ukraine and is affected by the war. But there's so much more resources at companies' disposal to make sure that they're handling those remote workforces really well. And that was not, I don't think that was, people were as sensitive to it or as capable of doing it prior to the pandemic.
Do you think it's, how do you feel about the virtual work and not being physically with your colleagues?
Okay, I feel very differently than my children, all of whom work remotely. So I'm for some kind of balance. I love being at home sometimes, but I also like being with my colleagues, being with my board member, my fellow board members, making sure I'm traveling out to the West Coast tomorrow to meet with one of the companies I'm advising. And I tell my children, there's nothing like it. You're going to have to, kind of figure out how to be in the office. But right now they've settled into this. I'm in the office 2 to 3 days a week and I'm at home 2 to 3 days. So, who knows, maybe that's the right formula, but I think there's nothing like being with people.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I feel the same, that it's nice to have both. Yeah. Anything you do kind of consistently becomes monotonous, Yeah. So what a nice opportunity to be able to be out and be face to face with people, or sometimes be home. Yeah.
But I think one of the things from a business standpoint that's really changed with COVID, and we've seen it. So the company that I'm on the board with is called Cantaloupe. We renamed it the year of the pandemic. It used to be called USA Technologies. We renamed it, but it's this company, and people may not even know it, in Philadelphia. It's headquartered in Malvern, and it's been there for 30 years. And it's been a leader in innovation and R&D in self-service commerce. Now, self-service commerce, you are seeing that absolutely explode. And yes, part of it was the pandemic, but part of it is just desire for consumers to be so empowered to own what they're doing transactionally when they're buying. And here's a company we've been on a tear lately. We just acquired another company this week, and we've had so much interest because self-service commerce is, it's a real industry trend. And this little
Tell me what that is, Lisa. I'm not familiar with the term. So, and some of the viewers might not be.
Okay. So self-service commerce is everybody's going to a store, or remember, here was the first self-service commerce. It was for USA Technologies, now Cantaloupe. They started with a vending machine with golf balls in it because they wanted to sell golf balls at a pro shop and there was no one there to man it. So they created the first vending machine. That was their first vending machine. Instant was a golf ball. Well, now, if you fast forward, not only do you see vending machines, you see things like micro markets at airports or in office buildings where there's no one there. You could just help yourself, buy it yourself. And as we like to say, buy it and go. Yeah. So I'm really excited to do this. And I love the fact that we have this really cool software technology company that's headquartered in Greater Philadelphia. It's pretty exciting. And we're really thrilled. We were just nominated. We were just awarded the second year in a row by the Forum of Executive Women of Greater Philadelphia as for our diversity on our board and in our executive leadership team. So I have to thank them for that honor.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there an overlap of robotics involved with the company?
Well, it's what's fascinating about it. And I was at IBM for 5 years, so I'm a techie at heart. What's really interesting is it's not so much robotics, it's artificial intelligence. And it's different things like telemetry. And let me give you a real example. Cantaloupe has always been in the vending machine business, but before, let's say, you're Frito-Lay or Pepsi, you have to go to the vending machine to see what to stock, and you have to bring all these cases with you, and then you have to decide to stock Coke or Pepsi or whatever. Well, we put in something called telemetry, and now what happens is you can monitor what's in all of these smart coolers and vending machines. You monitor it remotely. You can kind of forecast what you need. And so you only send your trucks and your drivers on the road when you need to restock it. Well, if you look at it, it saves gas, it saves on labor, it saves the environment. And that's where AI, artificial intelligence, is going to take us, because it'll become predictive. So it's actually pretty exciting.
It's absolutely where we're headed, don't you think? I mean, most supermarkets today, you walk in and you're purchasing, you're self-scanning, and you're out the door.
Yeah, and there are more and more things. You're going to see healthcare go into that. You're going to see lots of, you know what? the whole infrastructure that's going out and being built around the country right now with EV charging, that's self-serve commerce. EV charging, because you're there, you pay for it, you might want something else. So there's a whole new infrastructure being built in our country right now. It's really exciting, and we hope Cantaloupe will be part of that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And sometimes it's controversial. People, in thinking about the future and AI and robotics, that it's putting people out of work. But my optimistic self always says, but there's new jobs, right, within the innovative companies that are going to be coming down the road for those people.
Absolutely, because what happens is if you're not spending it on this, you're investing in workers that will expand your market, more vending machines or more self-cars. We're seeing quite an exciting time in this industry. And, I think it's going to be pretty exciting to see what happens, because I think people don't lose their jobs. They will be put and deployed, as you say, to other work, because it's a growth industry.
Yes. Lisa, do you miss marketing? You a lot of your work was in the field of marketing, which is different from what you're doing today.
You know what? A lot of the times when I marketing is core to my soul, but I advise companies, in addition to my board work, I advise companies in terms of their marketing, their branding, and also their go-to-market strategy. Okay. So one of the companies that I'm advising right now is, I think I could say it, but it's going to be launching a really cool, and I mean, I know this sounds really geeky, but it's a new app for contract workers, so they can do their taxes on the go. Because there are lots of accountants and very fancy accounting firms that are going to help very well-off people do their taxes, and every American should be doing their taxes. Well, we're developing this app, and it's called Easy C, and it helps contract workers, which is going to be the biggest segment of employment in our society. We help them do their taxes on the go reasonably and take advantage of tax deductions that maybe some affluent people know about because they have accountants, but we're really helping that. So that's a marketing strategy where I'm helping the company develop their app. So I kind of get the chance to help a lot of people, and marketing will always be first to my heart.
You're in like the key areas, or I would say industries, that really are relevant and timely, because certainly there are a lot of entrepreneurs as well, that we've seen this rise in entrepreneurship since COVID. People were forced to kind of sit and reflect about their life, and a lot of people quit the big corporate job.
They chose, and that's why if you look at the statistics from the IRS, the biggest segment of workers in the future will be independent contractors, over 100 million. They won't be, W-2. They have to, sounds geeky, but you have to do your taxes a different way. And, I love the idea that we're going to develop something for them that will help them. So look for that to launch next year.
Okay. Tell me a little bit, we just have a couple minutes left. I wanted to talk to you about CSR, and is that something you advise in companies as well? That's also something new that wasn't paid attention to years ago, but organizations are asked by the young kids today, how is your company giving back? Where are you?
Yeah, the one, in fact, I'm actually advising a client. I can't say who it is. It's a pretty fast growing client in packaging. And it's ESG that people are really, it's a broader kind of envelope, which CSR fits into it for sure. But it really is, what are you doing for the environment, for social, and for governance? And if you think of that, there's a lot of exciting things going on. So I am advising this company. It's at the C-suite level on their ESG strategy, because people are really looking at, broadly speaking, how do they manage all of the complex stakeholders regarding like things that you didn't really need to do before. Your impact in the environment, your collective contract with social, right, which includes CSR and other things, your diversity, your inclusivity, but also your governance. Will that change? And one of the things we're exploring with this company is whether we become a public benefit company, which I think has some pros and cons, but it actually puts into the company's governance a contract saying, here's what we will do that is of benefit to the public. It's beyond the traditional shareholder metrics, but more and more companies are being graded on their ESG metrics, and Wall Street, of course, is looking at it very, very, very specifically. So I see that as just continuing to grow. And I think you're right. This next generation, they almost demand it. And so I love to see younger people really engage in those conversations with senior leaders in companies. And I love that that chemistry that comes with the younger generation really driving the agenda with some of these companies that have been around for 50, 7,500 years.
Yeah, and it's such, I think it's just such a positive thing, to be paying attention to things that matter other than just the bottom line, of a company. Lastly, for a woman who might be watching the show, Lisa, what's your advice if she's kind of at the same place you are in a career and looking to join a board? Or there's things that she can do or shouldn't do?
You know what? Yes, it is. I would say it's one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had. I love being on boards because you're asked to do many things, believe it or not, as a board member. But most of all, it's to help provide the proper governance and strategic counsel for the people that are operating the company. And it's quite rewarding. And we had a great response to our announcement of our acquisition just yesterday with Cantaloupe, but with this other company that was sold, that I was on the board of, Fox Racing, that was sold, and we had a successful exit in August. So I think it's the advisory thing. So what you want to do is, I'll drill it down to something really simple to all women who want to participate in boards. Number one, become very competent in finance. You don't have to be an expert, but you need to be competent and really understand your way around a company's financials, and understand that whether they're, whatever type of company they are, really become competent in financials. Number two, if you're not on a board, look for nonprofit boards or community boards where you can start to build those muscles, where you understand governance and strategy. So number two, get on a board, and there's nothing like the real world experience of doing that. Number three, it is, I don't mean networking in the transactional sense, but look around you, talk to everybody you meet, learn from them. You will never know what you learn by talking to someone, just, picking up the phone, LinkedIn, or just talking to someone on a train next to you, that, you are going to learn something. And so some of the most amazing opportunities for me have just come from, I've lifted up my head and said, what's going on? And I've been really lucky that I've been able to do that. So that's number three. Number four is, and this is something talk to people that you love working with. That's what we had the ability to do on boards, is be with a collegial group of people where you have common values, common interests. And there's nothing actually that's more rewarding than being a part of a collective group that's advising a company. It's not you are part of the collective. So look around for groups of people that could be a small group in the board of education in your community, or a public company board. And then, my fifth one and my final one, which I tell my children, is absolutely write thank you notes and keep people up to speed on what you've done. And the end of year is a great time to do that. You can send your holiday greetings, but take the time to just thank people who had a conversation with you, or maybe introduced you to someone, or maybe gave you a thought that became something big. Thank them for it.
That's great advice. Lisa, thank you so much for taking time to be with me today, and best of luck on the latest acquisition and all the work you're going to be doing moving forward.
All right. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. So bye.
Stay with us, and you'll hear from Sherry Morrison, our Lifestyle Watch contributor. She's up next.
Action News, celebrating 50 years with AccuWeather.
The heat is on. In 2010, Philadelphia had a record of 55 days at or over 90 degrees. And those scorchers, they're on the rise. In fact, 10 of the 15 hottest summers occurred in the last 2 decades. Thank you for always trusting us to keep you informed.
You're streaming and we're streaming. Get the AccuWeather forecast and severe storm alerts 24/7 on our 6ABC streaming app.
Whether you're just getting started, already well on your way, planning for your future, drafting your vision, growing toward greatness, or finding that dreams really can come true. Whatever your next steps are, we'll be right here with you, just like we have been for 150 years. Start here, grow here, stay here. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the memories. Go for the view that goes on forever. Go for the bubbles in your bathtub and in your drink. Go to bed whenever you want. Or don't. Go for him. Go for her. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Do you stream on a Roku, a Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app. Watch Action News
The
live,
big story on Action News tonight.
plus special programming, breaking news, and severe weather updates.
Tremendous amounts of rain.
Always on, always the news team you trust. Watch 6ABC 24/7 on your streaming device. Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hello, welcome to the lifestyle segment of Women to Watch. I'm Sherry Morrison. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Kareem Rosser, author of Crossing the Line and treasurer of the nonprofit organization Work to Ride. Welcome to the show, Kareem.
Hi, Sherry. Thank you. I'm honored to be on, and I'm excited to talk to you today.
Well, we're excited to hear all about you and Work to Ride and Crossing the Line. So this has been long awaited for all of our crew. Kareem's book, Crossing the Line, is a story about he and his brothers by blood and culture, and a sport that changed their lives forever. The sport is polo. Kareem is here today representing a fantastic organization founded and operated by Leslie Heiner, based in the Chamonix Equestrian Center in West Philadelphia. It's approximately 3 miles north of the Philadelphia Zoo and bordering the neighborhood referred to as the Bottom, where Kareem and many of the kids who are in the Work to Ride program. In Kareem's book, he says, coming from the bottom, you had a better chance of being incarcerated or getting shot than graduating from high school. Ugh. As I read the book, I thought of David and Goliath, Kareem in this case, and his brothers and sisters, their resilience, courage, and how they overcame the odds. Kareem, please tell us a little bit about growing up in Philadelphia, your education, and how you ended up at the barn.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in West Philadelphia. Unlike the Fresh Prince, I didn't spend my time on a basketball court. I was at the Chamonix stables, the Work to Ride program, riding horses and changing my life around. I grew up just in a place known as the Bottom, as I mentioned in my book, which is, one of the, I guess, rougher neighborhoods in Philadelphia, if you will. Myself and my 5 other siblings all grew up with a single mom there, and it was quite tough. But fortunately, we found the Work to Ride program that was founded by Leslie Heiner back in '94. I started riding horses when I was 8. Joined my 2 older brothers, David and Jabbar, where they were out riding their bikes one afternoon from our park and stumbled upon the stable and met Leslie. Excuse me, and met Leslie where she just started the program at that time, or had a few kids involved. And I've always wanted to pretty much do everything that my older brothers were doing. And then I got on a horse, and it's been history ever since then.
It's a great story. It's your whole book is amazing because you hit every emotional element there is. I was laughing, I was crying, I was grateful, I was thankful, and I'm so proud of all of you and what you've done, and Leslie for what she's started. Leslie Heiner is actually our woman to watch today. She grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and she was involved with horses most of her life. When she got older, she worked for her family's business, but it wasn't a good fit. So from what I've learned, she went out and got a job at a horse racetrack. And then in '94, she stumbled across McCarthy Stables, which has been abandoned for quite a few years by the Philadelphia police force, correct? And then Leslie decided to put a business plan together to start Work to Ride, and she rented the stables from the city of Philadelphia. Kareem, can you please tell us a little bit about Leslie and how she operates the barn and has influenced you, your family, and many, many others?
Yeah, no, I always refer to Leslie as a saint. She has been a huge part of Philadelphia. I think just her work speaks for itself. Her commitment to saving children's lives here in Philly. I think about, what she's done for my family, all the opportunities she presented to myself and my siblings. As you mentioned, Leslie left her 9-to-5 job to basically serve inner city youth here in Philly. And, she's doing that by using horses as a vehicle, to teach kids many life lessons, really thinking about some of the important things such as responsibility, teaching kids a lot of soft skills, learning how to communicate with folks, showing up to school, talking about the importance of education, and she's doing all of this at a facility here in Falmar Park in Philadelphia. But this facility is not just a barn full of horses. I like to think of it as it's a barn full of opportunities. We think about this polo program that we have, that is a perennial favorite for many of the kids, and just the overall success of the polo program. But it's not just polo. We offer a number of different riding activities. But Leslie is she's a saint, and if we could clone people, she would be my first person that I would clone. Just thinking about all the great stuff that she's done for me in Philadelphia.
Well, that's such a lovely thing to say to her. What a nice tribute. Polo wasn't originally part of the program. Is that correct? I think she took a couple of you to watch and help groom horses at a friend's polo match, and then you came back and decided, hey, Leslie, we want to learn how to play polo.
Yeah, so when Leslie first started the program in '94, she was not thinking about polo. She was just really thinking about saving kids' lives. This even before my time, really. The kids were showing up and just riding in mucking stalls, and some of her friends she met, through her days during riding, invited her to come out and play polo. And at that time, the kids were just helping groom horses, hot walking horses, and kind of watching the game. But I think one of her friends encouraged her to get the kids out there on the field, and that led to Leslie eventually getting involved in the United States Polo Association Interscholastic Intercollegiate Program, which houses many club polo teams, particularly high school polo teams. So she got involved in that. We got involved in that, and then eventually that I want to say 20 years later, maybe 15 years later, that led to us winning our first national championship.
Yes, and that was a huge accomplishment for you. You had worked on that for years. Leslie was key in getting you to move to the Valley Forge Military Academy, and you were sponsored there. And then they ended their polo program, and then you continued to ride with Work to Ride before you actually won that championship.
Yeah. So I went out to Valley Forge Military Academy in 7th grade. And I started riding there and playing polo a bit, which took me away from the Work to Ride program, at least as far as the polo team goes. But unfortunately, the polo program at Valley Forge was dissolved, and that left me with Work to Ride. And fortunately, Leslie had a spot saved for me on the team, and my brothers and I went out and won a national championship in 2011.
Yeah, she did so many great things. I mean, while you were at Valley Forge, she sent you your favorite horse to ride while you were there, which is great.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a feel-good story, but there's a lot of tragedy in the book, and I'm not going to bring that up because I'll start crying. But it's just an all-around great story, and everybody should read this book because you'll learn so much about people and life. But especially if you're from Philadelphia, because it's incredible what's happening right here, and a lot of people aren't aware. I wasn't aware. I knew that there was a lot of bad things going on in Philadelphia, but not to this extent. So Work to Ride offers a lot of different programs for the kids. Its mission is a nonprofit community-based prevention program that aids under-resourced urban youth through constructive activities centered on sportsmanship, equine sports, and education. As Work to Ride has evolved, Polo has become a really great vehicle to help raise money for the organization. And recently, the Work to Ride Board of Directors has launched a capital campaign to raise $10 million to support and sustain the Work to Ride mission, construct fully enclosed multi-purpose equestrian facility within the Chamonix Equestrian Center, renovate the current stabling and pastures, and seed endowment to ensure sustainable growth. Can you tell us more about this campaign and the most exciting, the first Fairmount Park polo match?
Yeah, so, back in 2016, when I graduated college, I moved back to Philly. Within a year or two, I joined the Work to Ride board. And, we realized that we needed to figure out a way to, think about how do we institutionalize the organization and, build out infrastructure and programming that was going to ensure that the organization would be able to sustain itself moving forward. So, a couple of years ago, we launched a capital campaign to raise $10 million to construct a new equestrian facility that will allow us to operate year-round. And as you mentioned, also refurbish our current facility that we lease from Philadelphia, for $1 a year. And then also seed an endowment so that we can continue to operate, but also be able to sustain ourselves. So, we launched it a couple of years ago, in about a year, and I guess over the last year and a half, we ended the quiet phase, and we are at $9.9 million in total commitments to date, which we're really excited about, and we're hoping that we break ground this April and begin building a new facility that's going to allow us to operate year round. But more importantly, we'll have a really nice indoor riding facility, and we'll be able to play polo year round, which will be the first for us, considering we never had any indoor riding facility of our own to be able to ride during the cold winter months. So we're really excited and thankful for all the people who have supported us. But we know that fundraising never stops. We're going to continue to need funds to support the operations as we move forward. So we want to continue to encourage people to think about us and support us in any way that they can.
Yeah, and you had the polo match. You had thousands of people that came out to watch that. That was really exciting. Do you think that they'll continue that in the upcoming years?
Yeah, so this past year we had the inaugural Philadelphia Polo Classic this past September, which was a huge success in my mind, and I think in the organization's mind as well. We had over 3,000 people come from various parts of the country to participate in a day of 2 polo matches with very well catered event as well. It was really an opportunity to expose Philadelphia to the sport, but those who normally don't get the opportunity to participate in a sport that's really known as something that is exclusive and quite frankly lacks diversity. So we were excited to to bring that to Philadelphia and give those people who normally wouldn't have that opportunity to participate. And we will hopefully have it again next year. Our plan is to make this an annual event.
Yeah, I watched it. It was streamed on the computer, and I did watch it, and it was really a great event and well done. So I'm excited for it to happen again, and I will be there next year.
Thank you. Thank you.
You have some great sponsors, but there's a lot to do. Yes. I know Mars is sponsoring and going to be providing the feed. They have an equine, I mean, Mars, everybody thinks of candy, but they actually have an equestrian line of foods and goods that they produce and sell. So that's awesome. But you have a lot of needs that people should get involved with. You have you need volunteers down at the barn. You need teachers down at the barn. You need everything. I know all of the clothes were donated. You talk about, in the book, you talk about how kids show up in their boots with, duct tape around them. And, you weren't the look that people were accustomed to seeing at polo matches. So it was probably a little uncomfortable fitting in, but that never seemed to be what happened once you got there and got on your horses. I mean, you lost a lot in the beginning, but you gained a lot of respect from a lot of really very elite people not just in the horse world, but just in the world, and travel all over the world.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've been very fortunate. Some of the people that's personally come into my life, some of the people that, has started, that's been supporting the organization since inception. New folks who've just learned about us since my book was released. I know people been seeing us in the media over this last year as well. Everyone knows that it takes a village really to be able to have a program like ours, and that we will continue to need people's support over time. And so we're very, very thankful and grateful for the folks that we have in our corner.
Well, and what do you think are the biggest needs that is easy for people to get involved with right now?
I mean, I think, again, it's always nice when folks are able to, make a monetary contribution. But, we're always in need of horse equipment, need of people who can, spend their time, and as far as coming and help tutor kids. Education is a huge part of the organization. Looking for volunteers to help with some of the labor that is required around the facility. Folks who may be able to come assist and help in the office. So, I mean, there are a number of opportunities for people to get involved. So we're always welcoming volunteers.
And I think you're looking to hopefully expand this program to other places in the country.
Yeah, ideally, we would love to be able to, take this model and replicate it in other places around the country, because there's always interest from other people from around the country who call us and ask if we could help them start something similar in their cities. And I know after we are able to build our new infrastructure here and take care of ourselves here in Philadelphia, we would love to be able to replicate this and hopefully help some other at-risk youth and other underserved areas around the country.
Well, I think that's a no-brainer. I think you are on it, and you will be successful with all of those ideas and just progress in the next few years. Kareem, we're out of time. I'm so sorry. Everything you have to talk about is so interesting, but I really appreciate your time and sharing your story. You'll come back and join us sometime again. Hopefully, we'll have some news about the next polo match.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate you having me on, allowing me to continue to share the Work to Ride story and our mission and what we're doing. And hopefully those who are watching, reach out to figure out, how they can get involved or support the organization in whatever way they can.
Yeah, thank you. If you're interested in purchasing Kareem's book, this is what it looks like. It's available on Amazon.com. Kareem does donate a portion of the proceeds to Work to Ride. I believe you said 50%, which is quite generous. For more information about Work to Ride, how to make donations, dollars, horses, equipment, how to volunteer, how to sponsor, see what events are going on, go to www.worktoride.com. Thank you again for joining the show. Sue will be right back after the commercial break. Ladies, keep living your dreams.
Action News, celebrating 50 years with AccuWeather.
The heat is on. In 2010, Philadelphia had a record of 55 days at or over 90 degrees. And those scorchers, they're on the rise. In fact, 10 of the 15 hottest summers occurred in the last 2 decades. Thank you for always trusting us to keep you informed.
You're streaming and we're streaming. Get the AccuWeather forecast and severe storm alerts 24/7 on our 6ABC streaming app.
Whether you're just getting started, already well on your way, planning for your future, drafting your vision, growing toward greatness, or finding that dreams really can come true. Whatever your next steps are, we'll be right here with you, just like we have been for 150 years. Start here, grow here, stay here. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the memories. Go for the view that goes on forever. Go for the bubbles in your bathtub and in your drink. Go to bed whenever you want. Or don't. Go for him. Go for her. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Do you stream on a Roku, a Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app. Watch Action News live.
The big story on Action News tonight.
Plus special programming, breaking news, and severe weather updates.
Tremendous amounts of rain.
Always on. Always the news team you trust. Watch 6ABC 24/7 on your streaming device. Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hi, and welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for joining me this week. Next week, I'll be joined by Lori Carter, and Lori is the Dean of Arts and Humanities at Susquehanna University. Thank you so much to Tone and Kateri, as always, our producers, for doing such a great job. And stay with us at the end of the show. You'll hear from Carol Eggert, our Military Watch contributor from Comcast NBC Universal. Have a great week, everyone.
Now, the Women to Watch, Military Watch.
On December 7th, 1941, President Roosevelt labeled it a date which will live in infamy. Hi, I'm Carol Eggert, Senior Vice President of Military Affairs at Comcast NBC Universal. The accuracy of Roosevelt's prediction can't be understated because for the last 81 years, Americans have continued to recognize the event that brought the United States into World War II, forever changing our nation's significance and influence worldwide. A little over 2 weeks ago, machinist mate First Class Keith Tipsward remains were reunited and buried alongside his parents in his hometown of Beecher City, Illinois. At just the age of 27, he was killed while serving on the battleship USS West Virginia during the attack on Pearl Harbor. For over 80 years, Tipsward's remains remained unidentified and buried at the National Memorial Cemetery on the Pacific. It was because of the dogged determination of his family and the Defense POW MIA accounting agency that his remains were eventually identified through DNA testing. Like Tipsward's family, government agencies, volunteers, and many others, the memory of what those young men and women endured will never be forgotten. So, this Wednesday, December 7th, I urge you all to take a moment to remember those at Pearl Harbor and the over 400,000 U.S. servicemen and women who made the ultimate sacrifice during World War II. For me, they forever will be the greatest generation.